Hi friends, it's Taylor. Welcome back to the channel where I share my financial self-care journey as well as the tools that I'm using to become financially independent. If that's something you're interested in, be sure to join our community by subscribing and hitting the bell. Today we are doing my budget closeout for February. We're a couple of days into March, so that's why my dashboard is showing March's data, but we are just going to backtrack into February so we can see everything that we need to. As always, we're going to start with my spending overview from last month as compared to February, and we can see that my spending went up a little earlier in the month than usual, and that is because I ended up paying more towards debt, which we will talk about once I get to the budget. You'll also notice that the chart for February stops here on the 29th, and it didn't include my rent payment, which is on the last day of every month. And because February only had 29 days, the chart is a little bit off here, but we are going to head over to the cash flow tab now. And we can see that in January, I spent $2,911. And in February, I spent $3,286. And we see that my savings rate for February was actually 5%, which was a little bit low, but that is because I withdrew from my savings to cover some other expenses. Next, we're going to head over to the accounts page. These are manual accounts, so I do have to add the transaction to make sure the balances are accurate. One big change that I have made to my accounts and net worth going forward is I have decided to hide my business membership payments completely from my net worth. And so if I go into the settings, you'll see that it's hidden, and I completely forgot that even though I added this as a debt to simply track how much I have left before I have a lifetime membership, it didn't register to me that it was actually decreasing my net worth by $1,000. So now I have the best of both worlds by being able to see how much I have left to pay while also keeping my net worth at its true value, because this is not a debt, it is just a subscription. With that being said, let's see what my net worth progress was. So in January, my net worth was negative $25,595.98. And in February, I got that down to negative $24,666.62. So that is almost $1,000 that I made in progress. And keep in mind that these net worth changes are already excluding this because I hid it from my net worth historically as well. So I am very excited to show you all what I did to increase my net worth. Now we're going to head over to the recurring tab, and I'm going to go back a month and make sure that everything came out. And I have check marks next to everything, with the gray ones meaning that I spent more than expected, which is completely fine. And for those who haven't watched my Transfer Tuesday video yet, I have decided to completely close my Acorns and start putting the money that I was putting in there towards debt. So going forward, if we look at March, we'll see that the Acorn subscriptions are now gone. My next step is usually to review my transactions, but I already reviewed everything for February except for the interest payments here, so I'll just check these off. And now everything is completely reconciled. I already requested all of my reimbursements before I filmed this video, so you can see I got this reimbursement from my job here. And I think everything is good to go for my transactions. So let's head over to the budget, and I'm going to go back a month. So starting with my income, we have my paychecks, and that was $3,255. This income was more than expected, which was a little bit of a disappointment. And the reason for that is my retirement contributions were supposed to start coming out this month, both from my paycheck and my job's 2% match, but there was some kind of system/paperwork error, and instead of $160 going to retirement, only $41 went. So I kind of have to consider this a bad batch month, and I'm just hoping that future months will go much smoother, which means that I should be bringing home $3,221, and then everything else should be going to retirement. So Fingers crossed. And speaking of, my tax deductions have actually gone down a little bit this year because of the new tax brackets that they've introduced. So I'll be bringing home, I think, $10 to $20 more than I expected, which is not much, but it makes the world of a difference when you are paying off debt. So that's another big change. In addition to my paychecks, I rolled over $216 from last month, and I got $14 in interest, which is amazing. You can see that over the past couple of months, it is slowly going up. So I'm really hoping by the end of the year, maybe I'll have $50 coming in per month in interest. I got $24 in reimbursements from family mainly, and then a couple of other little things. I'm going to skip the other income section for now because it is going to tie into my debt section down here, so we'll get to that in a moment. And for business income, I made $137 this month, which is the highest that I've made so far. I am definitely seeing and feeling the growth, and I am super excited for the growth of this channel and my business. So thank you all for your support. So all of the income that I had to work with this month was $3,679. I'm gonna skip this category for left to budget for now, and we will move ahead to needs. So for groceries, I always aim to spend about $360, and I spent $389, so just a little bit over budget, but that's fine. Household, I was $4 over budget. And for my phone bill, I actually decided to switch to the annual plan. So this $201.25, I believe, that I paid is going to cover me for the rest of the year until February of next year. And I ended up saving myself about $160 or something like that by switching to annuals. So I'm happy that I made that decision because that's more money in my pocket as I continue to pay off debt. Transportation was almost $50 more than I usually spend, and that is because I decided to Uber to work. As a reminder, I shared in my Plan With Me video that I need to bring down my work transit account balance because I over contributed to it, and the only way that I can use the money is by spending it for work trips. So I figured using Uber would be the best way to bring down the balance as fast as possible. And then for pet supplies, this was also a little higher than usual. I ended up getting a lot of things for Coda this month, but the biggest purchase was this viral cat donut that I've been seeing around on social media, and it was definitely worth the price because he absolutely loves it, and it also gives him something to scratch and play in and lay in. I also got a rechargeable toy ball that keeps him occupied for a very long time, so that was another great buy. Next, we have my wants categories. Starting with therapy, that was only $40 this month. And going forward, it's actually going to be $0 for the foreseeable future because some things worked out in my favor where I don't have to pay therapy for a while. So I am definitely grateful for that. Health and wellness was $51, which was $1 over budget. For personal subs, I actually decided to swap out my Apple Arcade subscription, which was for gaming, and I replaced it with Crunchyroll, which was anime, because I spent a lot more time binging different shows. And that is one philosophy that I have when it comes to subscriptions. I am not afraid to unsubscribe if I'm not using it, and I'm also not afraid to resubscribe if I'm interested in it again. I just don't like wasting money for things that I'm really not using. You'll also see this Acorn subscription here, which was just $1, but I've already canceled that, so this will no longer be a part of my budget going forward. Business expenses was also a little higher than usual. I spent $137 in restaurants, and that is because I just spent a lot of time eating out with friends and family, so a little bit higher than normal, but completely fine since I was doing it with people I care about. Next, I have the treat myself category, which is just a merged category of my self-care category and my fun money category. I was essentially neglecting the fun money category in Monarch for at least a couple of months, and I was like, okay, this is a waste of time. I might as well just put everything into one group, and this also gives me a little nice message to myself as I'm doing my budget and deciding to spend on myself. And I also spent $80 on gifts this month for friends and family. Next is the wealth category, which I am most excited to share about. So the two categories that I made changes in were the loans and the extra debt payments. So for loans, my minimum payment here was $15 a month. I upped it to 25 using the extra money that I now had in Acorns. I also put $214 in extra debt payments this month towards this same loan. And the reason I was able to put this extra money towards debt is because I've changed my budget structure a little bit. So instead of just putting all the extra money in a month towards myself like I originally planned to do, I've decided to give myself a cap of $50 a month going forward, and then extra money outside of that $50 will go to debt. Now, even though I overspent in the treat myself category, the fact that I was still able to put over $200 towards extra debt was just absolutely amazing. And now let's talk about my contributions. So for the moving fund, I put $415 to that, and then I got almost $9 in interest, and that gives us a total of $424. For the bills account, I withdrew $200 to cover the annual phone bill payment that I made here for Mint Mobile. For the 1 month emergency fund, I contributed $100 and then got $1 in interest. And then for the $1,000 emergency fund, I got $3 in interest from that. And now I want to talk about the categories that I said we would come back to earlier in the video. And that is the left to budget, which is just a placeholder for what's up here in the top right. So if I set this to 0, we see that I have the $65 that I need to budget somewhere. As for the other income, I wanted to explain where this came from. This is actually the money that I deposited and withdrew from my Acorns. Now, normally I would categorize my Acorns investment transactions as transfers, as you can see here. But the reason that I decided to put these as other income is because I specifically withdrew that money from my Acorns account to pay off debt. So if I only withdrew the money from Acorns so that I would just sit in my checking or savings account, that would be a transfer because no money is decreasing, I'm just moving it around. But because I ended up using that to pay off debt, which I'm going to go back to my budget so you can see this $37 payment here, I had to show that it came in as income and then left as an expense so that it balanced out. And then the $65 that I have here left to budget actually matched up with the balance that I had at the end of February, which was $65.09. And so I'm going to open this category up for this month's rollover because this is the amount that I had left over. And now I have a zero-based budget. Now we're going to do the part of the video that I most look forward to every month, which is updating my projections. So starting with my cash, I expected to have $4,942.33, and I actually had a little bit less at $4,709.54. So I'm going to hit enter. And our chart adjusted a little bit and went down because my expected cash assets went down. And you can see a little bit in the chart that there's a little bit of a gap here, which shows that difference of like $200. But remember, that's because I put that extra $200 towards my debt instead of saving. So that is why my cash is down. Next, we have my investments. And based on my formula here, I expected to have $696.41, and instead it was higher at $755.81. And you can see there is quite a big gap here, and it also raised up my projected investments for the future. And keep in mind that $755 did not include the full retirement contributions that I expected to get. So if everything goes smoother in future months from March onward, then I'll definitely have some higher growth before the year is up. And lastly, for my debts, I expected to bring the balance down to $30,398.13. So I actually got the balance down to $30,131.97. And so that is a difference of about $200. And again, that's because I put extra money towards my debt this month. Now I need to manually update the net worth. So I currently have this formula adding my cash and investments and subtracting my debts. So I'm going to drag this formula down to February and it should show the right number. And it does. So I expect it to be just under negative $25,000 for my net worth, and I actually got a little bit more progress, and I am at negative $24,666.62. So with the amount that I'm saving and putting towards debt each month, I'm looking to increase my net worth by, on average, $1,000 each month. So by the end of the year, I should have negative $15,000 as my net worth. All right, everyone, that is it for today's budget closeout for February. If you're interested in the app that I used for today's video, which is Monarch Money, I'll be leaving 2 different links down below where you can either get 50% off for 1 year or get a free extended 30-day trial. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in the next one.